Welcome to Holistic Human Performance Podcast. My name is Gena Bradshaw, where we talk all things holistic health, wellness, spirituality, fitness, meditation, energetics, and so much more to help you become the healthiest version of yourself. Let's dive in. This is not medical advice. This is simply to help you on your journey through health, fitness, and wellness. I hope this helps. You can complement this with anything that you are doing currently in your life. Enjoy. I don't know about you, but I will do anything to make sure that my gut is up to par and healthy and strong. It is 2/3 of our immune system. And that means I am always aware of what I am ingesting, including ingredients and things that I am cooking with. One of my favorite companies that I love to use is Gourmend Foods. They are cooking essentials that replace symptom-causing ingredients with the highest quality, gut-loving, flavorful, low FODMAP alternatives. Gluten-free, dairy-free, GMO-free, sugar-free, onion bulb-free, garlic bulb-free, and 100% natural. Not everything that is low FODMAP is actually good for your health. And that's why Gourmend Foods is committed to bringing you whole, clean, low FODMAP essentials, free of all fillers, additives, and preservatives. I love it. I absolutely am obsessed with the organic beef bone broth. I use that on everything. And today, because you are listening to this beautiful episode, you get a discount on your next order of Gourmend Foods using code HOLISTIC. Again, use code HOLISTIC on your next order to get 15% off. You can find it at holistichumanperformance.co/favorite products. Again, holistichumanperformance.co/favorite products. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Holistic Human Performance Podcast. I'm your host, Gena Bradshaw, and today we have a special guest with us. We have Ketan Vakil. He is the founder of Gourmend Foods. I absolutely love them. I use them every single day, almost every meal, and extremely delicious. And there's such a incredible philosophy behind and why and mission behind this business that I had to have him on to share this, because I didn't know much about FODMAPs and kind of what they represented and why people, even if they are eating healthy, they can feel the bloating and they can feel stomach pains and digestive issues. I think it's super important. And I'm really excited to just have a cool conversation with him. So welcome to the podcast.
Hey, I'm excited too. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about, because obviously you got into nutrition some way, shape, or form. So
Yes.
tell me about your journey and kind of how it led you to creating Gourmend Foods.
Yeah, so I've had stomach problems since I was a teenager, probably 15, 16. My father was a doctor and he took me to all sorts of people to try to figure out what it was. Never really had any answers. Still 20 years into the future in my 30s, still having colonoscopies, going to doctors. Again, never really get any answer. And I finally stumbled on some research that talked about these FODMAPs, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was really just food all along. And there was nothing really, it's just the way we were all eating.
Yeah.
And then I came to find the stats that everyone has these problems, right? The 2 out of 3 people say they have digestion challenges weekly. Over a billion, almost 1 billion people around the world have irritable bowel syndrome. So everyone's got digestion challenges, and there's all sorts of reasons for that we'll get into. But my journey really was trying to solve this for myself. And once I figured out what it was, because I love to cook and love to eat so much, I didn't want to have to take things out of my diet and not replace them with things that tasted great and were still good for you.
Right.
So I started going to the farmers markets here in New York City and discovering interesting plants that were much more gentler on digestion, but still tasted great. Was freezing cool stuff in the freezer, making my own broths, and took me a couple years to finally decide, like, let's try to make a go of this to bring this to more people. So it's not just for myself.
Right. Right. What were some of the plants that you like stumbled upon?
Yeah. So maybe we should talk about FODMAPs. I'll give a 5-second overview.
Yeah.
So FODMAPs are really just carbohydrates that are simple sugars that are in lots of different ingredients that are hard to digest for a lot of people.
Mm.
garlic and onion bulbs are really high in these FODMAPs. So if you
Oh,
find that you
okay. I
kind
did
of,
not know that.
yeah. And so that's really what led me to start the company. Because if you can't eat garlic and onion, right, that's in everything, right? In its
Everything.
raw or powdered form. It's in every packaged food, and it tastes great. And it is good for you. Of course it is.
Yeah.
If you don't have gut troubles. Um, yeah. So instead of garlic and onion balls, I was like, what can we do instead? So it turns out garlic scapes, these curly cues that grow out of garlic plants above ground,
Oh,
taste similar, but are much more gentler on you. The green parts of scallions, the herb garlic chive, which you don't see in America too much. There's all
I was
sorts of
gonna
herbs
say,
and
I don't
plants.
think
Yeah.
I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, they're really common in Asian cuisine, and we work with a farm in New Jersey to grow garlic chives for us, which is pretty sweet.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, yeah. So we found this stuff that tastes like garlic and onion. Not exactly the same, but very, very similar. And we make all our products with these things instead. So still got all the flavor, but it's much gentler on you.
Mm. So, just out of curiosity, were you ever like diagnosed with anything, or it was just like a never-ending battle?
Yeah, it's this IBS diagnosis, right, that so many
Okay.
people have, but it's like, what does that really mean? You take
Yeah.
medicines that don't necessarily help, and there's a lot of prescription medicines, and some have proven to help more than others. But yeah, that's the diagnosis.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's not
It
this
didn't
kind of thing
really
where
mean
here's the cure.
anything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't really mean anything, and I think this is why everyone has gut troubles. Like, oh, I got IBS, and they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah.
So the data, there's been a lot of double blind studies on this FODMAP thing, and they found 80% of people who eat lower in FODMAP just feel better. Their symptoms go away. So it's crazy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And okay, so what kind of like so you were experimenting in the kitchen,
Yeah.
and what was like your first, because you have bone broths, you have beef, you have chicken, you have all these different spices and herbs and stuff like that. So what kind of was like your first uh recipe, I guess you could say, that
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
yeah, this is it. This is it.
Yeah, I'd say the the recipe I worked really hard on was the chicken bone broth. So
Okay.
that's a real recipe certainly. But the first product was garlic scape powder, which is just garlic scapes. It's just freeze dried garlic scapes, which is really hard to make for other reasons versus a more
Right.
formula based product. Um, so yeah, I mean for the garlic scape, I launched that one product in I guess that was 2020, like deep COVID. So we're all home. Launched it, the a FODMAP certifying body in Monash University had shared it out, and like 100 people bought it. And that one, I'm like, wow, so there's actually something here. But to make that product was a whole thing. We had to work with farms and garlic scapes are only available for a couple weeks a year, so we had to harvest them at the right
Oh,
time. We're actually just
okay.
doing some right now. Yeah, we had to harvest at the right time. They had to get driven up to get frozen, and then moved to get freeze dried, and then moved again to get bottled. It's a whole, and it still is like a real labor of love process to get that kind of a thing done. It's not a common ingredient you can just like buy off the shelf.
Yeah, which is so annoying.
Yeah, it is. It
But
is. And
I'm
then the
glad
chicken
that,
broth, it took a year to find a manufacturing partner willing to make this chicken broth the way we wanted. Most chicken broths are made with just off the shelf, like chicken bone powder. Like it just crap, really. We had to
yeah.
find someone who would do it with real bones and would take the scallions that were coming, chop off the bottom. The white parts are high FODMAP, the green parts are lower, and just use the parts of
Mm.
these plants that are gentler. So there's a lot of manual labor involved, and no one really wants to.
Is that why it's so difficult? I mean, I could assume why it's so difficult and like no one wanted to do it.
Yeah, no one really wants to play that game because it is fairly custom and there's manual labor there, and you can't buy scallion tops on the open market. You have to buy the whole scallion and cut them and
Yeah.
deal with it. So, but we've been
Yeah.
really fortunate to find people who are interested and passionate about doing something really interesting. And it's not really just about the finance for me. I wanted to make products that were organic, tasted great, use great ingredients, don't have fillers. Like most broths out there have so much sodium. They have yeast extract, melted dextrin, they had gelatin. There's all sorts of crazy stuff going on. Chicken fat powder, like this is just gross stuff. So we
It's
wanted to make
so
it with real
gross.
ingredients. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so gross. And honestly, I I would get, I'm like sensitive and allergic to MSG. I mean, no duh, like
Oh
our
no.
body's not able to like process that. I
Yeah.
didn't know that for a while. So, I
Yeah.
would eat something and then immediately get a headache and I'm like, what the hell is going on right now? And
Yeah.
again, it could be the simplest thing of just like like a spice that has these ingredients in them, and like it
Totally.
takes time to figure out, unfortunately. But
It
now I
does.
know, and I'm like, no thanks, not gonna do that. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And a lot of brands will put spices as an ingredient on their label, and you don't know
what
what's in
is
that,
it?
you know. So
Yeah,
I
like
really
what
believe in
spice?
ingredient. Yeah, what spice? Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
cool. So ingredient transparency is really important to me too.
Yeah. Were there any, I'm sure there were multiple hurdles, but were there any hurdles for you in terms of like did you have to like I don't know how it works in the food industry. Like do you have to patent? Like how does that all work?
I
Yeah.
tried to do a patent. It's really rare. And
Yeah.
if you've invented a new machine or technique for extruding, I don't know, making something, that's really not the case here, right? We're just collecting great ingredients and making it sort of a straightforward way. So I tried, but we couldn't get a patent on anything. So there's just a trademark on the brand name just to protect the brand name
Right.
itself. But and the formulas, like any form, it's a trade secret. Formulas are
Yeah.
trade secrets. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. Um so what was the process like when you first launched the like your first product? Like were you then like, okay, we're gonna keep going with this, or were you like in creative mode and you're like, okay, we're gonna create this and we're gonna create that? Like what kind of was that process? I'm so curious.
Yeah, I knew for sure I wanted to do this garlic scapes because they were so cool, and the chicken broth came right out because I was really working on those at the same time, and so that first year was basically those two products, but I knew of other things that were out there that we wanted to do some stuff with. So the next stuff we did like the green onion powder. So we worked with the farm to grow these cool Japanese scallions, and we had to harvest just the green parts and dehydrate them. We did a garlic chive powder, and then I wanted a series of the broths. Right, if you have chicken broth, well, why don't you have a beef broth and why don't you have a vegetable broth? So I
Right.
knew that was always the vision to get to those. And even just getting all those over the finish line is the whole thing. But now that we have those, there's all sorts of other things we could do now too.
I
But
know.
it's hard to rein yourself in because we haven't raised money, so there's not unlimited resources to
Right.
try all the things we might want to try. But
Right, right,
yeah.
right, right. No, it's so I literally use this on most of my cooking, if not
Oh,
all of
that's so
it.
sweet.
Yeah, no, it's good. I know that it's coming from a quality source, and I am one of those people that like sips on like bone broth just like as a snack. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that
yeah.
I can do
Nice.
that.
That's good for you. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's good for you. Absolutely. And again, like you said, there's just um conscious consumers, like you want to know what you're getting. So with
Yeah.
your brand, there it's like non-GMO, gluten-free. Is it
Yeah.
vegan too?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the product, right? The vegetable broth, all the powders would be
Right,
considered
right.
vegan. Yeah. 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 And the nice thing, yeah, if you're organic in America, every organic product by definition is GMO free. So you kind of get it for free if it's USDA organic, which is awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. And
No
do
salt
you
added. Sorry.
no, 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 go ahead. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
important too. Yeah, well, there's two reasons for the no salt thing. To me, I always wanted these to be culinary ingredients because you're gonna cook with a broth or you're gonna sip it, whatever, right? You want flexibility. A lot of broths, you'll reduce them in a risotto or a gravy, and it's a huge salt bomb now because you've reduced what's already a crazy amount of salt down, down, down. So I definitely want everything unsalted, but it's also got a huge health benefit because we know there's lots of heart issues in this country. So,
Yeah.
to me, we hit the two birds with one stone on that one.
Absolutely. And again, like it does taste good. It like does add flavor to your food.
Yeah, yeah, the flavor's coming from real ingredients, which is where it should come from. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually pass this along because I mean, like you said, so many people have gut issues, but between my clients, even my brother who suffers with celiacs,
Uh-huh.
and it, it's kind of like this continuing battle of trying to figure out like what like he knows his triggers obviously, but like there are also some things where he's like, I'm a mess right now. Like I don't know what to even do when it comes to this. And I passed along Gourmend and I was like, just try this, like see if it helps. And he really genuinely likes it. So it's,
Interesting.
win-win.
Yeah, that's you brought up celiac, which is interesting. We should talk about gluten for a second too, because yeah, if
Yeah.
you have celiac, obviously you can't have gluten, it's going to really harm you. But
Yeah.
there's a really people can Google it's the fructans, not the gluten, and you'll see some scientific studies in this. Basically, they did a test for people because wheat has gluten, sure, but it has fructan as well, which is one of the FODMAP categories.
Oh, okay.
And so they basically prove in this study that it's the fructan, if you don't have celiac, it's the fructan in the wheat that's causing people all the troubles. So
Mm.
but say sourdough, for example, has really low levels of fructan because its fermentation process has brought it down. So you can eat on the FODMAP diet, you can have as much sourdough bread as you want. Sourdough's totally fine. So it's not a
Oh,
gluten
that makes
problem.
sense why
Yeah.
it's not, it doesn't make people sensitive and why people who do have gluten intolerances can eat sourdough.
Yeah. Yeah. And this gluten intolerance, I think, is a misnomer. It's really a FODMAP. It's a fructan issue, and you've unnecessarily
Mm.
cut out this gluten. And you may not still feel great because there's fructans in garlic and onion, but and all sorts of other things too that you don't even realize. Oh, I still don't feel so great. Like before I knew what was going on, you'd have a bowl of cherries. You're like, that's a healthy thing, but not if you're sensitive to FODMAPs.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's really interesting. So are there, just like for the listener so they know, like what are some like top foods that have a high level of FODMAPs in them that would be triggering?
Yeah, yeah. So there's a bunch of different categories. But garlic, onion, bulbs we talked about are the biggest two. Stone fruits can be a bit of an issue. Um, Lactose is one of some milk products are one of the categories as well. That's the easiest one to deal with because you can take an enzyme,
Right.
lactate or something, and no issues.
Right.
Apples, so legumes, a lot of beans as well.
Okay. That makes
A
sense.
lot of this stuff is not like you can never have it. So your listeners should check out the Monash University's FODMAP app. They've done a lot of lab testing. So all our products have to be lab tested to prove they're below these limits. But they've tested fruits, vegetables, all sorts of stuff, and they tell you, oh, you can't have a million chickpeas. You can have like a quarter cup of chickpeas, this kind of a thing, before you get over this line where you might get the bloating and stomach issues. So
Okay.
it's pretty scientific and pretty interesting.
Okay, cool. I'll put that link in the show notes so people can check that
Yeah,
out. Yeah, no, I really didn't know anything about FODMAPs until I came across
yeah,
your business and I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting." I don't like I don't have an autoimmune issue or I don't really have digestive issues per se, but I do know if I have too much gluten, my sinuses start to like my body starts to get
interesting.
inflamed.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it could very
this
well
is
be the
part of it.
fructan. Yeah, it could absolutely be uh, yeah, could be the
People
fruit.
don't teach this though.
No, they don't teach it, and a lot of now it's a little bit better. I think more physicians are aware, and certainly the dietitians are. But if
Mm,
you go to your primary care, like they don't know, and so
no,
you don't get to the right person, it'll be like me. It took me 20 years to figure out what the story is, which is not great. So
I know.
we put a lot of educational material out because I think it's pretty important. But and the press has gotten even better. Like New York Times has put out some great stuff, and Washington Post, but it's slow. We need more. We need more.
I know. I know. That's why I wanted to have you on because I think it's super important for people to know this because they also talk about like the glyphosate that's being
Oh,
sprayed on everything and that triggers so many things, which
yeah,
is
yeah,
out
yeah.
freaking outrageous. I mean, I
It's
can't.
yeah, it's awful. Yeah, that's why I really felt strongly about organic, especially for the broth, because yeah, you don't want your animals consuming crazy stuff. You don't want your
Yeah.
vegetables sprayed. Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I know. So do you have any recommendations for when people are like shopping for food, like shop obviously like local farmers markets,
Yeah.
yeah, even with organic, like, is there anything that they need to look out for?
I think organic really is the gold standard.
Okay.
What we buy because there's really nothing else, right? There's regenerative now is becoming a thing. If you can find regenerative certified, it's even better.
Okay.
There's not much out where for us to try to move in that direction. Like we can't even get regenerative bones anywhere. But
Yeah.
that's going to be coming down the road. But if like go to the farmer's market, we buy our garlic chives from that farm in New Jersey. He's not organic certified, but they actually don't use any organic fertilizers or anything of the sort. It's really almost a regen operation. So I know that farmer. I've been there. I know they're doing it right. So I'm comfortable
Mhm.
buying it, even though it's not organic. So you just have to know where stuff's coming from. If you don't really know and you're buying it on the open market, you really look for that organic. I mean, if you can afford it, right? You have to make your choices
Yeah.
uh, for that stuff because it's obviously more expensive and groceries are so expensive already. But
Right,
yeah,
right, right. But it is worth it in the end because it's like you're going to pay more money going to all of these doctors.
Yeah.
And
Well,
food
yeah, I
is,
mean, I worry about, yeah, I mean, we all worry about the pesticides in the food and the water quality and all these types of things are definitely an issue. And then you've got this FODMAP thing on top, and other people have other different sorts of allergies too, so
mm,
yeah.
yeah, no, this was extremely helpful. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing this because again, like I said, I didn't even know about this until I stumbled across Gourmend Foods and I'm like, wow, okay, this is really informative. Are there any words of wisdom that you would like to leave the listeners as we wrap up?
Ooh, words
I
of wisdom
know.
on on what? I mean, to me, I think I started this brand because I think if you have food allergies or food sensitivities, I talk to so many of our customers that just don't feel don't feel great about eating because they just have been so depressed by it and just sort of dread eating. And it just shouldn't have to be that way. I think if you can do a little bit of work to figure out what your trigger foods are, you can adjust and eat the right amounts. Like I eat all sorts of great. You can have an amazing food life. Like it's so important, but you'll have to put in a little bit of time to do some of that research and figure out your own body, and
Yeah.
try to avoid the packaged foods that are really ultra processed. And
Mm.
you can just tell by flipping over the ingredient list if you see, more than one thing you don't know what it is. Like maybe make another choice.
Maybe you don't have
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you so, so much. And for all the listeners, I have Gourmand Foods on my favorite brands list. You can get a discount there. I'll put it in the show notes as well because I mean, I love cooking with these products. They're so good. And like I said, I literally just sip on the bone broth as like a snack, and it's so satiating. It tastes good and it's healthy for you. I mean, win, 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 win. So
Yeah. Thanks so much. Yeah, and if any of your listeners want to, if you email us, I do all the emails, so you'll get me if you have any questions.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And we'll put all that information in the show notes. So if you guys like this episode, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thanks so
Bye.
much.
You're welcome.